Good afternoon. Today I'm here in St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest town in America, and I'm going to be visiting a museum that houses all sorts of different medieval torture devices. Come on, let's go take a look. The museum is located on St. George Street, right here in St. Augustine. It's the main thoroughfare, and all of the old historic buildings are now filled with shops and restaurants. The museum is open from 10 to 10, 7 days a week, and the cost of entry is around $12. You pay at the register here in the gift shop. So let's grab our tickets and head on inside. Up first, we have a torture table, used for inquisition. The victim's feet and hands would be tied to both ends. They would be then whipped, prodded, poked, and burned until the information could be extracted. Up next, we have the armchair of inquiry. This was another device used to extract information from the victim. You can see it's just a seat lined with spikes. Here we have rat torture. This one is really sick. The victim would be tied to the torture table, and then they would let loose a bunch of rats to gnaw and chew at the skin while the victim was still alive. Here we see an example of one of the world's oldest methods of torture. Water torture dates back to the 15th century, though if you can believe it, it's still used in some countries even today. What do we have here? It looks like this poor fella's getting his tongue removed. A common torture method for those who have been caught lying. It sure gives a new meaning to the term, honesty is the best policy. This poor woman is being burned alive, a common method for those caught committing the crime of arson, witchcraft, or infidelity. Alive. The more they struggled, the more pain they felt. This was a common method used against those who committed crimes against the government. And here we see an example of tongue nailing, another torture method used for those caught lying. Here we see an example of flaying or skinning, a form of execution where the flesh would be stripped slowly and painfully from the victim while still alive. And now we see a device commonly referred to as the mask of shame, most commonly used on women who gossiped too much. hand torture, to cut fingers, smash, and pull fingernails. This device is called Heretic's Fork, and it was used against people whose religious beliefs were against the norm, such as witchcraft. Troublesome alcoholics, they would be forced to wear a heavy medallion hanging from their neck. And here we see barrel torture. In Eastern Europe, they would fill the barrel with ice water. This was also used on alcoholics and those caught brawling. In ancient Rome, the barrel would be filled with feces, and the victim would be forced to climb inside with the threat of beheading if they chose not to comply. device is called the Judas cradle. The victim would be sat atop a wooden pyramid-like device. Their hands and feet would be be tied in such a way that if they moved one limb, it would move the other limbs as well, driving further the wooden pyramid into the darkest cavity of the human body. Well, that wraps it up for this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, and subscribe to get notifications for all my latest travel videos. Thanks for watching.